doing? You are packing?
Yes, we are going home for Christmas.
For Christmas, yes. Girls, where are you going?
We are traveling. We are going home for Christmas.
Michael, where are you going?
Going home for Christmas.
Listen.
We are all going home for Christmas.
I come home for Christmas.
Home for Christmas. Is this not what we all want? Secondary school students can't wait to pack and leave for different destinations, leading them home. People working in cities and towns will board a bus or take a train to join their loved ones. Yes, we want to celebrate Christmas with our family, our relatives, and friends. This small word home has a special feeling attached to it. It makes us think of a place where we belong, where we can be ourselves, and where we are accepted for what we are. So of course, this is where we all want to spend our Christmas. Sometime before the season itself, we write all sorts of messages to wish one another all sorts of good things. We send Christmas cards of all sizes, of all types, and of all colors. And of course, when the Christmas season is there, we decorate our houses in all kinds of ways. We say we want our houses to be homely. We visit one another and we feel especially happy when those who receive us make us feel at home.
Did you ever think that it is the same with God? Yes, God wants to be at home with us. This is the special meaning of Christmas. This may surprise you, but it is very true. What do we really celebrate at Christmas? We recall the birth of Jesus. We remind ourselves that at some time in our human history, God has been born. We remember this wonderful truth that God has decided to become a human being like us so that he may feel at home with us. Yes, Christmas is a feast of God wanting to be at home among us. The gospel text uses vivid language to express this. It says that God has taken on our own flesh. He became flesh, says the Bible, among us people After the birth of a child, the parents choose a name for the newborn baby. Often, it is a name connected with a certain happening at the moment of birth. Later, a name may be chosen, perhaps that of a relative whose qualities are admired. When God came to live among us, his name was given even before he was born. It was said that his name would be Emmanuel. This Jewish word means God with us. This is what God had in mind right from the beginning: to be with us, to be one of us.
In our homes, chapels, and churches, we can recall this by representing the scene of the baby Jesus, born of a young Jewish woman called Mary. In many places, we can see in paintings, wood carvings, and pottery the figures of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Have you ever stopped to look and see? Have you ever paused and reflected on what is shown there? It is something quite extraordinary. God the Almighty has become a tiny child. God the All-Powerful has become a helpless baby. God, who can do all things, has become completely dependent on a human mother. God, who possesses everything, is born in a rocky cave, a shelter for animals to keep them from rain and cold. God, who knows all things, has become a child who has to learn how to walk and talk. Yes, what we can see there is something really amazing. God has left behind his godly ways and has taken on our human ways.
This is really not our idea of God. Quite often we think of God as being powerful and great, and quite often we think of him as being someone very frightening. But this idea of God needs some correcting. Of course God is great and powerful, there is no doubt about that, but he doesn't want us to fear him. Look at him in this fairly poor shelter in which he lies. There's nothing frightening about him, is there? Nobody would ever be afraid of a child. And God chose to come to us this way, as a child, so that we would never be afraid of him. He did not come to us as this typical king with glory and majesty. He did not come to us as an army commander with power and threatening people around. He did not come to us with riches and prestige so that we will feel small in his presence. No, he made himself small so that we would not hesitate to come close to him, whatever the conditions are in our own lives. In fact, he himself has come so near to us, so very near.
Since Jesus has been born in our world, there is no human situation where God cannot be present, if only we allow him. This is what we celebrate at Christmas. We rejoice in the fact that we have a God who is with us and a God who is for us. We remind ourselves that our God is a God who has tasted our human joys and endured our human suffering. A God who has been tired, hungry, and thirsty. A God who has known what it is to be betrayed by friends and abandoned by those closest to him. A God who has died a most cruel death, but forgave those who killed him. So joy and pain, success and failure, friendship and betrayal, life and death, all that makes up our daily existence is something to which God is present. Yes, all that makes up what you and I live from day to day.
There is a beautiful story that illustrates this most powerfully. It happened in one of the large refugee camps in one of the African countries. There was a religious leader who was going around talking to people there. He was very saddened by what he saw there. Poor tents that were very hot during the day and very cold during the night, food rations that were clearly not enough, drinking water that was in limited supply, children suffering from malnutrition and diseases. In fact, there was a general atmosphere of hopelessness. He came across a woman who was helping with the distribution of powdered milk. She was about 30, but she looked well over 40. When she looked up and saw him, she smiled, and her whole face glowed with a special radiance. The religious leader started speaking with her and said how sorry he was at the poor conditions in the camp. He paused for a moment and said in a soft voice, "Sometimes you must ask yourself, where is God?" The woman replied without hesitation, "Oh no, we know that God is right here with us."
This woman had understood the meaning of Christmas. The gospel tells us that when Jesus came among us, he pitched his tent with us. Indeed, and ever since, he has remained with us. He is truly God with us. You could say that he has his tent among refugees. He shares a cell with prisoners. He has built his hut among villagers. He is with the sick in a hospital ward. He can be found in a room in a crowded city building. He lives wherever we live. We said earlier on that in all situations of our lives, God is present. Perhaps we should add that he is present unless we shut our door to him.
Do you remember what happened when Jesus was born? The Bible tells us that there was no place for them at the inn. His parents had been looking here and there for a room where Mary could give birth, but they were told that there was no room for them. Later, John, the close friend of Jesus, wrote about this happening and said, "He came to his own, and his own did not receive him."
There was no place. They did not receive him. In those days, people did not have a place for God. And what about today? What about us, you and me? Do we have a place for him in our homes, and in our hearts. His mother is no longer looking for a place in the inn to give birth, but he, God, is looking for a place to stay with us. He wants to make his home in us. Are we ready to make a place for him? Are we willing to give him a special place in our lives?
This is a question that each one of us must answer for himself or herself. I cannot answer for you, neither can you answer for me. But one thing is certain, God expects an answer from us. Strangely enough, it is an answer that must be given from day to day. It is not given once for all. It must be repeated day after day. There is in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, a text which clearly expresses this. The text says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone opens the door, I will enter and have my meal with that person." Yes, amazingly, God knocks at our door. He does not enter without being invited. One day, a famous painter decided to draw a scene illustrating this text from the Bible. So, with all his skills, he drew Jesus coming to a house and knocking at the door. When he completed his work, the painter invited few of his friends to see the painting and asked for their comments. Very soon one of them said, "Ah, you have forgotten something. There is no handle on the door." The painter replied, "I did not forget. This door can only be opened from the inside." Yes, the door of our hearts can be opened only from the inside. This means we have to welcome God freely and willingly. God does not force himself upon us. He does not oblige us to welcome him. He simply knocks, waits until we are ready to welcome him. As it was on the first Christmas, so is today. God did not force people to receive his son in the newborn child. He did not oblige people at the inn to free a room so that Mary can give birth in a decent place. No, the way of God is gentleness itself. He asks, he invites, he knocks, and he waits until he hears our response, even in a whisper. "Come in, Lord. You are welcome. Welcome home."
Earlier on, we were speaking about the Christmas card that we send to one another. At times, together with the good wishes for the Christmas season, there is also an invitation. The relative writing to us may say, "Join us for the Christmas meal." Or the friend sending the card may add, "Make sure you come and visit us." Yes, when we speak of the Christmas spirit, we often talk about the time we spend with relatives and friends. We enjoy visiting one another, eating and drinking, singing and dancing. So, the invitations of our friends are very important to us. All of us receive one special invitation at Christmas. Oh, you will not find it among the cards that you receive. Even if I go through all The Christmas mail I've received, I know I will not find it there. It is not written with a pen or printed on a piece of paper, but it is real. It is an invitation from God. Yes, an invitation from God. In fact, it is an invitation with two sides to it. The first part is God inviting us to share in His friendship. The second side is God inviting Himself to share in our lives. You may be surprised at hearing this, but it is very true. God wants to share in our lives. He wants to share in our joys and sufferings, our struggle and our success, our work and our rest, in everything. What He wants, in fact, is to bless us with all His gifts. But again, as we said, it is an invitation without obligation, but with the promise of wonderful things to come. If we only say, as we say to a good friend, to come in, make yourself at home.
There are different ways to welcome God into our lives. One of these is to welcome the people who are especially dear to Him. That is, those who suffer. At the beginning of this program, we said how we all like to be home for Christmas. But there are those who will not be home for Christmas. The refugees, we spoke about those. The prisoners detained justly or unjustly. The sick who are in hospitals. The orphans who have really no home to go to. And those who have to sleep on the rough streets in our big cities. Perhaps we could do something for one or the other of them. A friendly visit, a little gift of food, or a toy for the child. This would be a good way of showing the one who made himself a child that we welcome him. He who said,
to stay close by me forever and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in thy tender care, and take us to heaven to live with thee there, and take us to heaven to live with thee there.